the most wonderful time of the year. Holiday movies. Supposed to have 6 people on the show. We have 5. 5 understood the topic and pacing. We'll be there. We'll get through all this in a while. I would say if you polled the audience in this community, I'm the Grinch for most people. But around this time of the year, I'm quite happy. I love holiday movies. I love Christmas movies. I love to enjoy that season. And I love when my kids are grateful for the gifts you give them and they don't play with them after 2 weeks. It's great times. Don't be a dad. It sucks. All right. First up, Mark, you're back. You're Mac. Scott didn't want to do holiday movies. Clearly, that's the Scrooge of this episode. He's not here. But Mark, how are you doing? And how early is too early to put up your Christmas tree?
Well, first of all, I'm a big proponent of not until after Thanksgiving. You got to be after Thanksgiving. Only people who do that are lunatics. I saw a Christmas tree in my brother's house, and I thought he lost his mind. During Thanksgiving, I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. Well, I yelled at his wife. So you know, I'm good.
Oh yeah, what'd you bring? I forgot that question.
Oh yeah. Well, I came across this movie a little bit later in life, and honestly, I didn't quite know it would be a bit of a divisive film, but it'll be fun when we get there. I brought the Polar Express.
The fact that you came across it later in life and enjoy it, that's scary. Next up, Kirk, same 3 questions. How are you? How early is too early to put up a Christmas tree? And what movie did you bring for us?
I'm okay. You remember, I think it was last year or the year before, I can't remember, you and I were involved in a Christmas movie trivia match.
I rewatched that.
And I came in last place, and I thought about why, and I realized I don't watch a lot of Christmas movies because a lot of them are bad. And preparing for this episode really kind of solidified that thought. Black Friday or after for the Christmas tree. Anything after Thanksgiving's fine. And I brought an interesting little artifact called Carol for Another Christmas for my movie.
Yes, I remember that. I also remember I answered a question about falling or hurting themselves, and they gave me the point even though they fell down the stairs and hit their head, and like this whole thing happens, and I did not put any of that. And he's like, we'll give it to you. Yeah, okay, cool. Next up, Brian. Same 3 questions.
I'm fine. I will say to Kirk that a lot of Christmas movies are bad, but a lot of all movies are bad. This is just a smaller sample size to choose from, so it's going to happen. Christmas tree, if you ask my son, he wanted to put it up the day after Halloween. We said, hell no. I agreed to let him put it up tomorrow, only because his Thanksgiving break starts. He has all week off, and it will keep him out of my hair for a while if I let him do that. So there's that. I brought the Thanksgiving classic, Home for the Holidays, just to be a little different than all the Christmas movies, since it's a holiday edition.
That's fair. Payson Johnson, same 3 questions for you.
Yeah, I'm doing very good. I'm excited to be on this show. I would say after the first couple weeks of November, I think it's okay to start putting up your Christmas decorations. The one question I have to you guys is, when is it time to take down your Halloween decorations? Because I'm sending this picture to the group chat right now. Someone can edit it in. This is a giant decoration that is around my neighborhood right now. It is a 2-story skeleton that is blocking a household, and it's really weird just to walk past it. And I brought Tokyo Godfathers.
Throw a Santa hat on the skeleton. You're fine.
Yeah, I would need a ladder to get up there. Check out the photo.
All I'm saying is Tim Brzakala, the great Tim Brzakala, edits these videos for me. I am not asking him anything to throw in post. So screw that. Next up, Jim Green. Jim Green was here. Couldn't be here. Picked the Jim of Christmas with the Kranks. Can't wait to talk about that. And then me, I'm doing fine. November 1st is fine to do a Christmas tree. It is up in my house. It has been up since November 1st. I enjoy Christmas. I don't celebrate Halloween, and dead turkeys only show up one time a year, one day of the month of November. So we can start watching Christmas movies ASAP. And then I picked a movie I hadn't seen. It came out last year, I believe, Spirited. Will Ferrell and my enemy in movies, Ryan Reynolds. I don't like this man, but I picked the movie with him in it. So we'll see how this goes. We'll talk about it. The first movie we're going to talk about is Carol for Another Christmas. So, Kirk, I'm guessing for the rest of us, this is the first time watch for everybody, right?
First time watch. Yep.
Yeah. So where the hell did you discover this? Like, I know it fits as much as I've known you, it checks a lot of Kirk boxes. But how did you stumble upon this? And then we could get into the conversation of the film.
Yeah, I literally stumbled upon it. Was actually in July of last year. I was just surfing through HBO Max's like TCM banner, and I came across this, and it had Rod Serling's picture on the poster. I was like, oh, okay, I like Twilight Zone. So I went and looked at it. Carol for Another Christmas, again, is the movie I have from 1964. And what this is, it's basically, it was a made-for-TV movie that was essentially an ad for the UN. The UN kind of promoted and paid for this to kind of get their ideas very obviously out into the world. But they spared no expense. Directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, written by Rod Serling, scored by Henry Mancini, starring Robert Shaw, Peter Sellers, Sterling Hayden, Ben Gazzara, Eva Marie Saint. Giant cast. So I'd never heard of this before, and I guess it was only supposed to air the one time, and it wasn't anything that was supposed to be, a reoccurring thing. But TCM kind of brought it back 10 years or so ago, and it's kind of been floating around ever since. So I was just kind of fascinated by the fact that it exists. So I thought it would just be something interesting to talk about. It's not like a personal favorite, and if you guys didn't like it, I'm not going to be upset about that. I thought that because it's such a weird thing that exists and nobody really knows, it'd be fun to bring on and discuss.
Yeah, I assumed when I was watching this and I was looking at who was all involved, it's kind of like of that time of Thanos putting just stones in an Infinity Gauntlet. I'm like, if this is like a cast like list of all these people in a movie, you're like, oh, what the hell's coming? Like, you're gonna go in to see it. I will say, a giant mallet and a nail of you fucking did terrible shit through World War II and shit. I want you to understand what the fuck you did. You remember those bombs you dropped? Here we are again. Like, it was just like a constant. I was like, I stopped the movie halfway through and I was like, did the world have influence on this movie? Because like this is like the automatic, like at one point it's like, just because there's a war going on, America, you don't have to get involved. Like, you don't have to put your nose in everything. I'm just like, this is propaganda stuff like happening. But overall, this is the one thing I was talking about when I watched this. It's crazy how the Christmas Carol story can be altered and changed in 7 million different directions. But the thing is, I don't enjoy the traditional Christmas Carol. Like, I just don't. But every other like different look at it, I enjoy that premise of it. It's kind of neat how they play it and they put it. I did not have a bad time watching this. You could tell like it was kind of like produced in a lab a little bit, like it had a clear message and a clear mind, but the performances are great, the score is good, the messaging is not wrong by any stretch of the imagination, so you get it. I wonder how everybody else felt like of this movie. I don't know if I would add it to like the Christmas like like run of movies. Like, I don't know how I'd watch this and How the Grinch Stole Christmas back to back, but maybe.
Well, I mean, I will say that, like, I agree with you. Like, and I love the Christmas Carol, and I just like the idea of taking it and making it like on a wider scope. And the messaging is extremely heavy-handed. There's no arguing that. But I still think cinematically and visually, it's a really interesting retelling, modern retelling, taking the bones of the original story and bringing them up into what was modern times. I think it does a really great job of that.
I think that the use of the word interesting, that's a perfect word for it, because I don't know, it's not entertaining necessarily, but it's very interesting because it's basically, I mean, it is heavy-handed. It hits you over the head with that message, but it's essentially anti-war propaganda film kind of thing. And especially for the times, it was like, just as Vietnam's escalating, right, as the US is soon to get involved, that kind of things. They are kind of saying, let's not do this again kind of thing. But it's kind of a cool little experience. It feels like a lot like a play. It doesn't even feel like a movie. It feels like a play. But I mean, it works. Like I said, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I was glad I watched. I had never heard of this before Kirk picked it, so I'm kind of glad he did.
Beautiful,
especially with the cast and everything involved. It's weird for me because the cast is a lot of people who I've never seen young. Seen Ben Gazzara in things like Big Lebowski and Roadhouse and stuff like that. It's got Mr. Takagi from Die Hard is in there.
Yeah.
James Kavita.
Mhm.
Pat Hingle, who is Commissioner Gordon in Batman, he's in there somewhere. So it's just, for me, it was like a lot of, I know that guy kind of thing. I do find it interesting though with the cast that you guys said is in this thing, that the poster is just Rod Serling, and it's like that's like on a poster for a movie, and it's just Quentin Tarantino's picture up there. It's just the writer director of it or something. But I mean, I appreciate it. I thought it's not something I'll probably ever watch again, but it was very interesting. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like Cody and Kirk have said, this movie is in no subtle way absolutely a propaganda film. Like it has a very clear message. It was engineered, it seemed, but like you could tell me the US government made this to like say, hey, war is bad, and I would believe you. But at the same time, I think it is helped by the fact that I think the cast is so good. While watching this movie, I just had an observation. I just think Sterling Hayden, like, we don't talk about this enough. He is one of the great voices, like, of actors, like, of all time. Like, anytime this guy talks, I'm just like, I am just captivated. It's such a cliche to say, but he could read the phone book, and I would be captivated. I think it's funny that him and Peter Sellers both did this movie and Doctor Strangelove in the same year, which I think is just kind of a cool coincidence. But yeah, nothing about this movie like blew me away, but I was never bored while watching it, which like for a movie that is essentially just like conversation pieces and going through this guy's life, it would be important to not make that boring. And yeah, I had a pretty swell time while watching it.
I mean, they got the perfect writer because, I mean, the movie's essentially a feature-length Twilight Zone episode, which is fine with me because, like I said, I love Twilight Zone. But that's what the Twilight Zone was. It was usually a message that was being pounded over your head, but still like in an entertaining way that held your interest and made you want to see how it turned out.
I just was thinking it's funny because this guy's standing there and they're going through all this stuff. I'm like, there's other people making these decisions, like all this shit, man. Like, bro, go to somebody else. Like, I get it. Like, if I had a hand, cool, but like, this country's pretty big. Fuck off. Like, I think the entire time it's like,
this one guy.
those bombs you dropped and those people you killed. Oh, like, I'm in the plane. Like, I may have given the order, but like, it was just so funny how it worked. So. And did you call Payson? I don't know if you misspoke, but like if you said if this was made by the United States, like I would believe it or whatever. I would be the opposite. Like the U.S. would never make this film. I would believe like the United Nations. So because they were like, war is bad. Well, fuck around.
I thought it was funny. I was kind of looking into like some of the background of this movie and stuff like that, and I found it didn't actually even air until 3 days after Christmas on December 28th because they didn't want it to seem like propaganda because of election years. They wanted to wait till 8 weeks after the election before they aired it.
I mean, why would you show this?
The government was like,
Christmas
"Yeah, we
Day?
don't want any part of this."
Why would you show this like Christmas? It'd be a huge bummer Christmas Day. It's like,
Hey, kids,
all right, let's gather around. Let's watch this thing about how we fucked up.
Everybody sit down. War is bad and America sucks. Oh, okay, well, over the present. Enjoy your red bicycle, Timmy. We killed people in World War II. Mark, what did you think of it?
It was fine. I mean, listen. There's a lot of things that was interesting to me, and honestly, some of it like wasn't the movie, because I spent about half the time thinking, why in the fuck did Kirk pick this? Does he watch this every Christmas? Like that'd be a weird fucking thing to do. Like I don't know why he would do that. Like but it's like, and also hearing that this was a TV movie, and like they just got all these guys to show up basically for a day to do a TV movie, like it's kind of nuts. And I also really like. It is funny because there's like a million different iterations of A Christmas Carol, and like 80% of them is just like a straight retelling of A Christmas Carol. Like they're really not all that different. I think the closest we get is something like Scrooged, where it's like, yeah, this is different, but like you're pretty much giving me the same story again. Like it's like this is one where you're kind of using it to you're at least using this to tell at least send off a different message, tell a slightly different story. And I was thinking about this, Cody, when you said you like Christmas. If you like different iterations of a Christmas Carol, I got a Ghost of Girlfriend's Past like ready to serve up to you like that. Like that. I think that would be right up your alley.
I hear that movie's bad. Is that movie good?
I liked it, but I don't know what that means around here. So
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I will say I feel just the opposite of Mark. I see this and I'm like, this is exactly the kind of movie I would expect Kirk to pick if forced to pick a Christmas movie.
I can expect him, his entire family, like sitting there and goes, "Oh, you want to watch Elf? You want to watch this? No, we're gonna watch Carol for another Christmas. You're gonna learn some shit today, all right, guys? Let's enjoy yourself."
Everybody said, "Well, thank God this is 85 minutes, and we can just get in and get
I
out."
will say it was a long 85 minutes though. It drags in some parts.
I got when it happened when the guy's on the boat for the when he shows up and starts talking. I was so interested with the delivery and the script with it. I never felt like bored. The only thing I ever eye rolled is I get it. We fucked up. Because it was funny because it was a story I said is somebody bombed a naval base and we decided to eliminate 2 cities. It's the biggest fuck you move in US history. And this, and as soon as I start this, I'm like, somebody else also believes this is crazy move from people. But no, I think the dialogue and stuff was smart to at least keep me into it, and I enjoyed for that aspect. I did think it was a little heavy-handed with what they were trying to deliver because I don't know. I think maybe I understand what their plan was, but if you jumped into different scenarios in the world, maybe that would have made it. But it was this one guy is really fucking taking a lot of beating from shit that there's a lot of people in that room making those decisions. But I think it was just their own compass, hey, open your eyes. This is what they're doing. So,
maybe if your movie, if it works the way your movie makes it sound, then this was just his year, and they moved on to somebody else after this.
That's fair. But I also, bringing this back is Kirk picking this for holidays. I can just imagine his son going to school and be like, "What'd you guys watch for the holidays? You watch Elf? What'd you guys watch? My dad made me sit down and watch 7 Samurai. Yeah, you got educated for it too. Enjoy yourself."
Cody, did that? I forget the exact context, but I wrote in my notes. Did that Red Sox joke bother you?
No.
Okay.
We have 4 championships. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Maybe it stings in 03, but it doesn't sting that. The crazy thing, Red Sox. Yeah, shut up. Okay. Any other point that we want to touch on? I mean, it's Christmas Carol. It's got a lot of cast. I think it's interesting. I didn't know about the whole TV movie. They just brought everybody on for a day or whatever to do this. But I mean, you can kind of tell. It's just.
I mean, the cast is obviously stacked. It's great, but I think the standout is Peter Sellers. His segment. He doesn't play the Ghost of Christmas Future, but he's who the Ghost of Christmas Future shows him to, who shows Sterling Hayden to, as the ruler of the world after World War III, basically. And his character is this might be where it gets the most heavy-handed, where it's it's so over the top to the point of almost parody, but still he's scary in this, and just the whole setup is kind of terrifying, but he is bone chilling in his performance because he plays like a Peter Sellers type character, almost like a clown. But there's a level to it that's hard to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we can get scores on it. Kirk, where are you at?
I was at 3 before. I'll probably stay there. Again, it's no masterpiece, but it's just interesting. Like I said, I like Twilight Zone, and it's like watching a Twilight Zone movie, so I enjoy that. So I'll probably stick with a solid 3 on that.
Okay, Mark.
All right, feel pretty good about this. This is definitely a movie I feel is more interesting than it is good. So I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay. Brian.
I'm kind of wavering between the two of them, 2.5 and 3. I think I'll just give it a 3, just barely. I'll give it the 3.
Yes. I'm also at 3 stars. I think it's fine. I think it's informative. I think it works. I just doesn't know it's going to click onto the. It will definitely. It won't click onto the rewatch. Like it happened. It's there. We'll move on. Show my kids one day the pain of war and be like, "You think Christmas is fun? Fuck you. We drop bombs on people." Pacing.
I think I'll go a little higher. I'll go 3.5. I quite enjoyed it. So yeah, good movie.
Yeah, that checks out. Okay, for our next one, I will just tip the hat. So Payson, I brought Payson on the show. I don't know if Payson really wanted to be on this show or just caused absolute chaos on this show. I wasn't really sure. Payson brought Brazil originally, swapped out Brazil, went to Tokyo Godfathers. There's a chat with a few of us in it, and somebody put somebody was watched Tokyo Godfathers and was like, "What the world, Christmas?" Yeah, we'll talk about that. So, Payson, why do you hate see? And I've done this to Kirk for years at this point, just to be a dick. Not that I actually believe this, but we made an agreement in our chat at the start that we weren't going to pick like movies like Die Hard or stuff like that, just to be like to start that fight. I've never been more on Kirk's side now, ever, of like what the difference between a Christmas movie is, like a holiday Christmas movie, and a thing that just takes place on Christmas. But Pacing Tokyo Godfathers, I'm assuming you like the movie a lot, but is this also a holiday roll through? I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, no, this is I really enjoy this movie. This movie is directed by I am someone that does quite enjoy anime. It's directed by Satoshi Kon, who's made other really good anime movies, whether it's Perfect Blue or Paprika or Millennium Actress. Yeah, like you said, I was going to do Brazil because I thought just the whole thing was, hey, I was allowed to go ham wild, and while Brazil, it takes place on Christmas, has a lot of the anxiety that goes into Christmas. Brian very politely, unlike other people in the chat, was like, hey, Payson, I do enjoy Brazil, but let's try to keep this to another Christmas. And I was like, you know what? Fine. You weren't a dick like some other people that were not here tonight. So I'm going to be polite and change it to Tokyo Godfathers, which, regardless of what you think about the movie, is undoubtedly a Christmas movie. Like, you cannot deny. Cody's making a really weird face right now. Movie opens with Silent Night. There's snow all around. There's a bunch of Christmas imagery. I'm very interested to see what's about to happen right now.
Okay, so yeah.
Is this like the whole argument that like it isn't a horror movie, it's a coming of age movie?
No. So I think there's a divide. I think it's a very stupid argument. I think Brian is like one of the people that is like the most tired of that argument ever of like Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Die Hard's fucking not a Christmas movie. Watch it if you want it to make it a Christmas movie. But I think there is definitely a line in the sand. If your plot, I think the main argument is, does your plot center around Christmas or does it take place in December? Like, there's two different things, right? So I don't believe Tokyo Godfathers would qualify as a Christmas movie. It definitely takes place during Christmas time, but the same reason why Tokyo Godfathers isn't delivering this child to Saint Nick. Like there's no drop off at like there's no like the homeless people are not trying to like find the elves and return them to the reindeers. There's no center point around Christmas. They're just living in a place during the holidays. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Not saying it's a bad film.
But okay, yeah, no, fair.
Brian, you put in the chat, in our chat, so this is about as similar as Brazil. Your thoughts overall?
Well, that's my thing. Is my whole thing, especially with the Die Hard, was like the discussion I'm really tired of, because really whether or not something's a holiday movie depends on that individual person's definition of a holiday movie. Is it a movie that's Christmassy themed, or is it a movie that takes place at Christmas time? Which some people might consider that, and that's fine, but it's just stupid to have an argument because everybody has different opinions. He picked Brazil, and like I told him, I like this movie. It just seems like a movie that just happens to take place at Christmas time. And so he said, "Hey, you guys want me to change it?" And we're like, "If you want to, that'd be cool." And so he did. And that's what surprised me, is because Tokyo
Very
Godfather.
politely. We like Brian very, very politely. He did not say passive aggressive comments on a movie that you've never seen. I'm sorry, but you suck. You are so dumb for doing that. Watch movies, you fool.
Okay, I'm going to try to be polite in the second part of my statement then, because Tokyo Godfathers, I feel, was the exact same situation as Brazil. It's like, if that was your first choice, I would get it, but it's like that was your idea of a correction, of an upgrade, and I'm like, again, it's like if you took out the Christmas tree at the beginning of it and the song over the closing credits, there's nothing in it, I feel, that's Christmas themed. And again, this is just your definition of Christmas, so I'm not going to criticize you. But it is what it is. We picked it. We watched it. I'm obviously not going to have a lot to say about this movie because everybody knows anime is not my thing. I didn't love this movie. I didn't, hate it and want to turn it off immediately. I was mostly just largely bored by it. But that just has to do with my taste in movies. So I will say I was a little surprised by it because I'm watching this movie and these people find the baby and they're taking care of it and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's like assassination attempt. I'm like, what the fuck is this movie? that took me a little by surprise because I guess I didn't know what the movie was about, and some of the language and stuff in it, which doesn't offend me. I was just surprised that it was in there because I'm like, oh, it's that kind of movie. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you. Like, and this sounds rough. I don't mean this as disrespect if you like this medium. I would rather watch nothing than watch anime. Like, I would rather just stare at the void than watch anime. I don't find it entertaining. I find the animation style just off-putting it all get out. I just don't like it. Am I breaking up? I don't know. And then on top of it, foreign language on top of it, it just was a lot for me just to love.
There's no dub version out there for me to watch. I had to watch subtitles.
Yeah, and I hate to be that guy, but you're gonna make me watch anime. Can I have dubs? Maybe, because I don't want to read the subtitles, and I also don't want to watch this. So these two things are fighting me at the same time. I believe they're I know of this director is very praised, he's revered as in this medium, his movies are really good, and I wish they were just mine, but it's that in stop motion. I just could give two shits less. I don't care. I know it's a lot of work. Just stop working that hard, I guess, is my viewpoint. The overall movie theme is I felt it very chaotic. I felt like it jumped, and maybe that's my attention span, because they're taking care of a baby and then there's an assassination in champ. What the whoa. So I had to go back and be did I miss something?
Right.
And then they get involved with the the crime world or whatever, the gang, whatever it's called. But in there, and there's this scene, and I was like, are we gonna sing Jingle Bells? Are we gonna talk about are there gonna be presents? Where are we going? We're not. Okay, we're not, then we're not. So I just didn't. Again, I didn't see Brazil. I was pitched that this is different because this is more Christmas themed, and from Brian's take, I got there's just no Christmas. There's trees and there's Silent Night, but there was just no holiday, and that's fine. And I want everybody to know, when I said you can be a little wild, I meant I wasn't going to hold people down to a holiday. It didn't have to be. If you were wanting to bring 8 crazy nights on, because you like Hanukkah, we could have done it. So. But overall, I'm curious. I think, Kirk, do you like anime?
I'm not a huge anime fan. I'll watch it. I'm definitely not the Ghibli style stuff is not something that I like. I'll watch it and enjoy, especially when my kids were younger. They liked a lot of those, but it's not something that I'm drawn to or really excited about. I've seen some of this guy's other, I watched Paprika just for the first time a couple months ago, and the difference between that and what I like about this movie is a lot of this style anime just goes too crazy, and it just, to me, starts to get ugly because they throw in the kitchen sink with the animation, and just you get all this stuff. It's it just doesn't work for me. I kind of like this movie because it was a little more mundane, and it was just a story of normal people. There was no like, science fiction or, fantasy elements to it. It was just normal people in this style of animation. And I appreciated that. As far as it being a Christmas movie, I felt like the first like 15 to 20 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a Christmas movie. Like it had like a lot of Christmas elements at the beginning, and then that kind of just drifted off. So I feel it had like, if we had a minimum, it met the minimum. But other than that, I enjoyed the story. I liked I liked the stuff like the assassination attempt. I liked how there was like layers to it. Like you had a mystery of where this baby came from and who was responsible for it. And you also had like the layers of mystery of each of the characters. Like they had a backstory that kind of got unraveled as the story went on. So there was enough there. Definitely kept my interest. And honestly, like I said, the first 10, 15, 20 minutes are Christmassy. And by the time that stuff started to go away, I didn't notice that much because I was more interested in everything else that was happening. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I liked I love the opening credits, which were hard for us to, as English speakers, to appreciate because we still had the subtitles and, we're basically getting credits. But the opening credits are just them going through like rushing through the city, and on the billboards and the side of buses on top of buildings, you get all the credits. So I thought that was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of little things like that within there with the animation that I enjoyed. So no, overall I thought this was a pretty decent movie.
Mark.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't think we'd get into hey, do we like anime or not? I wasn't sure like this was gonna go there. And I mean, I used to watch a lot as a kid. I watched Toonami back in the day. Yeah, I watched some Gundam Wing stuff like that. But what's it say? I'm kind of with I think Kirk kind of mentioned this too. I think kind of whenever, because a lot of like this type, at least a lot of Japanese animation, I didn't watch. I haven't seen until like a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, I ran through all the Ghibli movies. I think what I came to like, at least about a number of them, was I liked just watching a normal-ish movie that just happened. Like it's basically like, what if like we got When Harry Met Sally, but it's just animated. Like it's just a normal fucking movie with anime, and I tend to appreciate that a lot, and that I kind of like. I really like that aspect about Tokyo Godfathers, and on some sense, like, I mean, Payson, I'm not gonna bust your chops too much on it, mainly because I feel like the themes. I feel like I feel like the themes are there, because I feel like almost like at least like 90% of holiday movies have in common is that they are all about family or finding a sense of home, and pretty much in all of these three main characters are dealing with like this whatever kind of family crisis. Like they're not really sure, at least like kind of where they sit with their loved ones, and they're also trying to make like this new kind of found family work. And like, and I like those types of stories in general. I think it's partly the reason why I like every James Gunn movie that's been coming out, because like that's what they're all about, really. But no, like I feel like at least on that aspect, I think this movie at least covers that. Like it fits in with a lot of holiday themes, even though like yeah, we're not seeing Christmas carolers like every 15 minutes. Like
yeah, I think the relationship between the three characters is, to me, why I like this movie so much. How like, yeah, they like are technically like a family because they just sort of like found each other and just are kind of forcing out, but they still hate each other. Like a lot of families, like if you don't go through days where you hate your family, I don't get it. But like, wow, that's dark. But yeah, fair. Okay, yeah, you
we'll
get
into
it.
that later.
Yeah, good point. But yeah, I think of all three of the main characters. I think Jin, the one guy who was like a former athlete, was the story I felt the most touched by. By like, he used to be an athlete, but he was like a hardcore alcoholic and left his kid. Like, I thought that really hit me. Miyuki being someone who like you learn that she stabbed her dad and she ran away from home and that's why she's homeless. And like all the reasons why they are out on the streets, they have different reasons for being there. I just think is really, really like really just emotional. If animated nudity bothers you, this probably isn't going to be the movie for you. I do want to say that because there's a little bit of that. I know some people get bothered by that, so stay away from that if this doesn't. And just to point out what Kirk says, of all Satoshi Kon's movies, this is probably his most grounded one, so take that as you will. But like if I were to say, like if someone was new coming to his movies and said like, hey, which is the one that is like the most like traditional animated movie, I'd say this is the one to watch.
Well, this is the most grounded one, then this is my last one. I will say that was an easy decider. But again, if it has a family element, it's a Christmas movie, so I can't wait to. If it's cold outside and it's a family element, it's a Christmas movie in Mark's eyes. That's a terrible bridge to open because there's a lot more films to add.
I said it had similar themes. I said it had similar themes of a lot of Christmas movies. I don't know where you're constructing an argument around what I was saying.
I heard family. I heard feeling of home. All right. All right. Any other parts? Do we want to get into the anime nudity a little bit more, or we want to give scores?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Payson, what's your score?
4.5. I really, really do love this movie. It's not my favorite Satoshi Kon movie, but I really, really love it.
Kirk.
Muted.
You're muted. That's a really good score, though. Full 5-star. Proud of it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I like it. I think it is. I think it's like the Letterboxd top 250, so I think it's a little overrated. But I still enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 3.5.
Ooh, me and Brian have the same reaction. Mark.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Makes me at least want to watch a couple more of this guy's things. I give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I rarely find anime movies that I enjoy. I mean, the occasional one comes along, like Your Name came out a couple years ago. I like that one. But for the most part, anime, not my kind of thing. So for me, my personal enjoyment, I got to give it 1 star.
Better man than me. I gave it 2, but maybe I just don't want people flooding me. What did you not like? I gave it 2 stars. It's between the 1 and 2. I will never watch this movie again.
I can see why anime fans would enjoy this very much, but my rating, when I rate a movie, it's based on my personal enjoyment of it, and this is not my thing. So
I don't mind. I get anime as like a take it or leave it sort of medium, and whenever people are like, I'm just not into it, it doesn't bother me at all, honestly.
Yeah, I'm gonna back. I'm 1 star.
Also, Payson, we can hear you fine, but you haven't moved in like 2 minutes, so I don't know if you want to leave and come back or something.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
I'm
do
sure
that.
you want to be here for this next one. So, yeah, I have to go with 1. I'm not going to watch this movie again.
You sure?
And if somebody brought it back on Roundtable, like, we already talked about that. You don't need to talk about it again. Go watch the episode if you want to talk about it. So, next movie up, Jim did not. I'm curious. I know how this is going to go, but I'm very curious of where. We are doing a Guilty Pleasures episode of Roundtable when we come up. This next movie would fit the bill for me on Guilty Pleasure. And it's Christmas with the Kranks. Tim Allen, Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't know. I know Jim is also in that camp of finds it entertaining or enjoyable in some aspects. So we are doing Christmas with the Kranks. Just before we get into topics, who enjoys this movie? Raise your hand. As a guilty, enjoyable, what? Okay, so me and Mark, cool. Okay, so the other 3 are not in a fan of this movie.
Parts of it.
Okay, like parts of it. That works. Payson is one of the most misconstrued arguments in this entire thing about this movie, but we can go through it. All right, so why don't Kirk and Payson, why don't you enjoy this movie? Besides the article, it's not good, because that's not an argument.
It is a movie. Okay, Kirk, would you go get me first? Okay. aside from the fact that this movie takes place in a cartoon like unreality universe, which fine, I like a lot of movies that do that. You are watching unlikable characters feud with even more unlikable characters. And the message that the movie was trying to get across in the first hour and 10 minutes of the movie, it completely throws away at the end for these characters that were trying to be a little bit different, while very for selfish reasons and for insane reasons, they just conform to their own hive mind again.
Okay,
now, Cody's
pause.
acting like I just said the world was... Okay,
Pause.
but yes.
Pause. That is one of the weirdest arguments from this movie that I don't understand. That these people are selfish ways. They're not selfish. The viewpoint... No, listen. If I live next to Kirk and Kathy, and Kirk says, you know what? Fuck Christmas this year. I'm going on a fucking cruise. I'm going to save all my money. I'm going to make sure it happens. And on December 24th, I'm going to put my ass in the Bahamas. Everybody on the planet would be like, fucking go for it. Enjoy your life. This town goes, fucking selfish bastards.
But here's the thing.
We're going to fucking put carolers outside your house. This is going to be domestic terrorist on an all-time level. And we're mad at Tim Allen for icing the sidewalk and not giving it to charity. Fuck yourselves.
Yes, and here's the reason. Because here, if Nora Crank and what Luther, if Nora and Luther Crank would have just been normal about it and just been like, you know what, we're just going to take it easy this year, fine. But then you got Luther writing literally pulling a Martin Luther and leaving his thoughts on the door by posting a memo explaining that he's going to be skipping Christmas. No one cares if you're going to skip Christmas if you don't make a big deal. It is the difference between quitting social media quietly and making a giant full paragraph post about how you're skipping about how you're quitting social media.
Hold
make
on.
a big deal about it, you moron. Now I hate
you. He has to. He has decided to let everybody know that he is normally going to give to, that he will no longer this year be celebrating Christmas, which I don't know if you missed at the beginning part, because this is the part that you don't understand. One, because you don't have children. But when your child is leaving and you do not get to celebrate Christmas with them, the idea of Christmas without them is probably unbearable. So what they're going to do is take their mind off of it and put all their finances behind the cruise, which is a valid argument for this family to take. So he is notifying everybody, all the people that normally expect his donations or expect him to volunteer at the food bank, they will not be attending this year. And guess what? The entire town goes, you fucking assholes, we're going to light your house on fire and we're going to burn it to the ground. Fucking psychopaths.
Here's another thing. Reason why this movie takes place in cartoon land. And this is this movie cannot happen
in a Christmas movie. Welcome to a Christmas movie.
Yes,
am I in FANZONE right now?
No, let me explain. This movie could not take place in Arizona, and I need to ask Brian because this movie takes place in Illinois. Brian, what are the gun laws like in Illinois? Because
pretty lax. Look at Chicago.
Okay, thank you. Buy a gun and get them off your property. You fool!
Hold on. Your take is they need to pull a gun. So skipping Christmas is fucking selfish and crazy.
I mean,
now
it is
you
the great
need Luther
equalizer
to come out with a Tommy gun to fucking just scare off the carolers. You're a psychopath. And I love. We're having an argument of this cartoon.
It takes place in Chicago. It's the Chicago way.
Hold on. That's a crazy take in 2023. But here's the take. We're saying that they're selfish and this is weird and they don't need to skip Christmas. But we're saying that they need to just you understand Christmas movies. One of the main figures of most Christmas movies is a fat man with a white beard that travels overnight and delivers presents. This whole fucking thing is goofy as shit. So welcome to Christmas movies. I need to get Kirk and everybody else involved. This is not FANZONE. Kirk, why don't you like this?
Well, first of all, I will say it's pretty sad. It's almost like a tale of two movies because it kind of changes halfway through. I didn't enjoy any of it. There is some redeemable stuff in the second half, though, so I'll talk about that later. As far as the first half, and this is when all the stuff Payton's talking about is happening. My problem is this movie does not take place in cartoon land. It doesn't like present itself as anything weird. It's just like a normal neighborhood where for some reason everybody is psychotic about Christmas, and like whether you're people who celebrate and not like are ridiculous. And like if you put this in like a Wes Anderson movie or a Tim Burton movie and like some kind of heightened reality, like if this was the Block from Edward Scissorhands and people reacted that way, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I could buy that. But it's like the most like vanilla white bread like characters and just like neighborhood, and it's so edgeless that like I compare this this has a lot like thematically has a lot in common with like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Like that movie has like a lot of the same bits almost, but there's just like an edge to those things that make that funny. This movie has no edge. Like this movie is basically for people who think Baby Yoda memes on Facebook are funny. Like that's the kind of comedy you're getting out of this movie. It is just so like flat and dull. And I'm sorry, Jim, I'm glad you're not here, and I don't have to say that to your face. But it's just so not funny, and it's hard to watch. Yeah, and that first half is just dumb. The second half, when it turns into like a little more of a traditional Christmas movie where you just have the Christmas stuff going on, it gets better. Actually has one of my favorite shots I've seen in a Christmas movie. Towards the end, when they're bringing the daughter in on the police car, and they have the police car and the kid on the bike in front. They got the whole town lit up, and the snow's falling. And they're playing Darlene Love. Great Christmas movie moment. So it does improve a little bit there, but the whole thing is pretty bad.
Brian.
Well, I was amused listening to you and Payson debate because somehow I agree with both of you. Even though you have such diverse opinions. My thing is, I think that their idea at the beginning of the movie of skipping Christmas, best idea ever. I mean, you can get rid of the stupid traditions that you're forced to do. You can save a ton of money, especially with their daughter's gone from the house. So it's like now they can do this, and like you said, they might just want to escape the idea of having to celebrate it without her. I don't think that they're spoiled, selfish little babies like they're called in the movie. I think it's a great idea, and if they want to do it, great, and the townspeople should just let them. So I agree with you on that. The problem and the rest of the town is actually the assholes. They aren't the assholes for trying to skip Christmas. The rest of the town is for trying to force it down their throats. Just want to say that, which is why I think that the worst part of the movie, I feel the opposite of Kirk. The second half of the movie is where they lose me, because as soon as they start caving, I'm like, fuck them. You should have stood your ground and told that town to kiss your ass and skip Christmas, and it's none of their business what you want to do with your time. So in that respect, I agree with Payson, I think, on that, because I didn't like them caving in. I would certainly feel zero guilt or obligation or anything to cave in and go with people, because I just don't care what people think. But yeah, once they started, frantically planning for their daughter to come home and have this party, it was just like, you lost me here. And then that's also, and throughout the movie, especially in that second half, starts getting very slapsticky, and the comedy isn't very funny for me. Something else I wanted to say. What was it?
And Dan Aykroyd was like, I have to sing a song. That was like in his contract.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm singing a song, and not just a Christmas song, a song I wrote and made up.
So bad.
Well, I remember I had two points I wanted to make about the movie that I had a problem with. One, they said the cruise was leaving on Christmas Day. So they didn't even need to abandon all of Christmas to go on this tour. They could have gone all the way up to this Christmas Eve party and still left the next day on this cruise. So all of this controversy and conflict was for nothing. That's A. The second thing is with the townspeople, like for instance, like the Scouts, they got all mad at them because like, oh, you didn't buy a tree. You buy a tree every year. You're stiffing us on this tree. When he comes back at the end, they didn't have any trees left. They clearly had no trouble selling it. Just saying. That's all.
I think too, like my thing is like the tree is one thing because it was like $80 or whatever. Like the cops come to sell the calendar. Calendar is like $10. Just give the $10 and like
no,
it's just
fuck
weird.
off.
Well, I think the problem with this movie too is like this movie's like 20 years old. I think we've reached in 2023. We're like at a point where we're much more understanding of people who like celebrate things different, do things different. But I feel like we were close enough to that in 2004 that it should have been weird when it was happening as well.
Made in 2023. Tim Allen would be doing a TikTok about how they're canceling Christmas, and it would blow up, and news reporters would be out. Do you want to make a statement for why you're skipping Christmas? Because now it's just not a town thing; it's the fucking world, and everybody's pissed at him. Mark,
I do see Kirk's point on the please sell and the tickets or the calendars thing, because it's like that goes back to my point how you can still do your cruise. And you can still decide not to skip Christmas at your house, but it doesn't mean you have to like swear off the entire thing and things like the buying the calendar. It's like it's $10. Just pay it.
Well, it just shows that he is a penny pincher basically. But
so I'll make this announcement now. As someone who's looking to move out next year, I have a date. I'm getting my own studio apartment. It's going to be very, very nice. How much do you think that house they're living in is worth? Because holy shit, do I not care about rich people's problems?
In the Chicago suburbs, that's over $1 million right there.
Yeah, eat a dick, Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen. Holy shit! Stop complaining about
just because they have the money doesn't mean they don't want to save the money. Fuck off!
Does your privilege taste nice? Does your privilege taste nice, Mr. Allen?
A lot of conversation coming from the boy that still lives with his parents. Shut your
yeah,
mouth.
I'm trying to move out.
And I'm sorry.
Mark.
I was going to say, let Mark say his piece.
Let Mark talk. Shut the fuck up. Let Mark talk.
I don't know if I need to talk.
He's just sitting back and enjoying this.
Yeah, this is great. I'm just drinking my beer and having a good time. Here's the thing. Whenever I raised my hand at the beginning, I did so ever so reluctantly. I mean, I think I took stock, 2 years ago, and I really started to think, hey, what movies do I watch every year for Christmas? And I realized I watch Christmas with the Kranks every year for some goddamn reason. Why do I watch this movie every year? Like, because I sit here and I'm like, and I'm rewatching it now. I was like, I don't really like this all that much. This is kind of insane. Like everything, honestly, everybody's saying their piece, whether it's good or bad. Here you go, guys. You're all right. Like everything you said is correct. Like nothing about this makes any fucking sense. I mean, if I'm being honest, like there's absolutely no, like the movie wants me to believe Tim Allen is a huge dick in this movie, and he's not. I mean, he just kind of wants to do his. Most people like it, it's nobody should care, and in reality, nobody gives a fuck. If my neighbor has no lights, I'm not knocking on his door like, hey man, how come you don't have any lights out? What, you a dick? Like, do you not like the baby Jesus? Like I'm not doing that. Like nobody's doing that. But like it is, I mean, in all honesty, like in my opinion, if Luther had just gave the scouts like the $80, that hey, we don't want a tree, but here's $80. Here's what I would have paid for the tree. Just go away. Nobody would say anything about Luther because he would have given the money to the scouts, and he already donated to the church and the children's hospital. He still donated some. That was why Jamie Lee decided before going on the cruise, like, oh, we're still going to donate some money to the poor and the sick. So who cares? Like they're fine. It doesn't matter. But I don't know. Like it is 100% a guilty pleasure. There's nothing. I can't tell you a single thing about this movie that I like. It doesn't. Like it's not a great movie, but I watch it every year and I enjoy it. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. It's probably some Tim Allen thing. I just kind of like Tim Allen, like just doing shit. That has to be part of it.
Okay, so yeah. Mark tackles the thing. Are we supposed to like Luther Crank, or are we supposed to not like him?
No, it doesn't matter what you like about him, but your whole viewpoint is because he sends that email and everyone gets pissed off about it. But the thing is, everybody should have read that email and been like, all right, fuck it, well, whatever, just skip Christmas. But no, the entire town says, fuck you, you piece of shit. The only part of this, like, listen, I'm sitting here arguing like this is the 5-star movie of my holidays and I love it every bit. This movie is not special. One, the few things I do like, I like Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen's like relationship, because I don't know if you have not been married, like their kind of dialogue on certain items is 100% like a perfect marriage like situation. there's situational comedy and there's stuff that's funny in that. Well, Kirk and Kathy, listen, they watch Seven Samurai and wrap presents together. I don't know. I'm not telling you they're.
This was maybe
like a dream. That sounds like the dream.
Apologies to anyone wearing headphones right now.
This was
We're gonna watch
maybe
The Breakfast Club.
this is maybe Jamie Lee's worst performance that I've seen. She's
No,
actively bad in this.
I'm not saying they're great. Like, this is not the one part of the movie that I can't stand is the weird like emphasis that this guy's Santa or some magical thing that just pops out randomly that makes no fucking sense ever. It's so weird and random where then it just makes me believe this entire town is just like on a fucking snowflake in the Grinch land because nobody is real in this situation or this nature.
That is very in line with the movie. Like, oh, that Santa just happens to come up. Makes perfect sense. Why not?
But no indication it's Santa. Just like, you know this guy? He knows who you are. It's fucking weird. We've talked a long time.
I do have one more question as far as Illinois question for Brian. Is Illinois known for having a lot of rain during the holidays?
It can, yeah. In Christmas, a lot of times we have it's still green Christmas.
Because they have like that one crucial scene where it's like rainy, and even like the poster that that inspires the trip isn't. Oh, it's snowy, so get away. It's rainy.
I mean,
so get away.
It doesn't generally pour, but it's not snowy here yet.
Because I'm wondering, my only thought was like if they didn't have the budget for snow and it was cheaper to make it rain in that scene. That's the only thing I could think of is why it was rain.
My only remaining question on this movie: who in 2023 or even 2004 is still named Luther? Just saying, that's a weird name.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Which talk about disliking a character immediately. The second Nora's like, "Hey, can you go into the gas station to go pick that up?" And he's like, "What is raining? I don't have an umbrella."
Oh my god! Don't, Payson. I'm gonna give you a little piece of advice right now. Don't ever fucking get married. Don't ever get fucking married. Don't ever fucking get married. Because the moment you sit down or get into the bed and your wife looks at you and you got comfortable and like, "Hey, can you give me a drink of water?" You want to flip the bed outside the house. Once you sit down and get comfortable, then the question comes. So don't tell me that you don't understand Luther. Every man in the world goes, "Yep, I'm with Luther. I don't want to fucking get out of the car." You know what? In 2004, they're getting it DoorDash to their fucking house. He's not stepping outside. We're getting scores. Oh, by the way, this psychopath. What did you say? What was your review for the Antichrist?
Oh yeah, it is still. Okay, I'll pull up the full review yeah. So when
go ahead.
Let me get the full quote.
Great podcasting. Let you sit
there
and just...
Hey, you put me on the spot. I can get it.
It was a sentence. I figured you remember.
Still not as more Antichrist. 3.5 stars. Still not as morally repugnant as Christmas with the Kranks. Watch the opening of this movie, and that should tell you something. How bad Christmas with the Kranks is.
That just means how stupid you are. You come from the school of Spence reviews. We'll give reviews. I'll start 3.5 stars. 3.5 stars. Always on the watch list. I got it crossed off, so I don't have to watch it again. But I may watch it again. I enjoy it. Mark.
Watch this movie for the show. We'll probably watch it again in 3 weeks. And this movie is the definition of a 3-star movie.
Brian.
Like I said, I liked the first half when they were, saying, giving the middle finger to Christmas, saying we're skipping it, we're not doing it. Great idea. Lost me once they caved in, so I went 2.5.
Kirk.
See, like Brian said, we're reversed because the first half of this movie is one of the most unwatchable things I've ever seen. The second half, there's at least some like fun Christmas stuff in it, so that redeems it a little bit, but it's still 1.5.
And Payson.
This is up there with the worst Christmas movie I think I've ever seen. It's up there with Santa with muscles.
That's crazy.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So stupid.
Also, real quick, I thought the one shot you were talking about, Kirk, was when the fire got in Frosty's eyes as like he fell on him.
Yeah.
I thought that was like your one perfect shot.
God, I could do the ultimate mic drop, but I'm not going to. I'll give it 1 star. I won't go half star, but I hate it so much. Do I write that on my? Yeah, I won't do it. That.
No, whatever. Do what you gotta do.
Okay.
No, I would not be okay with it.
is it for me?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I'll message you after.
Make your bed, see if you'll lie in it. All right. All right, now we're going to another just fantastic Christmas movie. I'm now going to be as fired up as Payson on the last movie, Polar Express. This fucking horror film of a Christmas movie. My God. I turned this on for my 5-year-old yesterday. She did not make it through the movie. 2 times in the past year that she's yelled, "Mom, Mom, Mom," and bolted from the room. That fucking puppet scene is straight out of fucking scariest shit alive. I need to know right now, Mark, what age, when you came around to watching this movie for the first time, that you sat there and said, "Yeah."
So there, yeah, I think it was, the second season in the trivia. I saw, hey, Robert Zemeckis in round 3. I might as well watch all of Zemeckis' movies.
You liked it from then? I should have denied your entrance into this league.
Listen, I think I saw the trailer for this when I was a kid. Thought, wow, that looks fucking stupid. Never didn't think twice. Never watched a minute of it. And I was going through Zemeckis movies, and I got to this one. It was also around Christmas. I remember it. I think it was like after Thanksgiving. It was kind of around that time. It was at least late enough in the year where it felt Christmassy. And I was like, oh, like this isn't like that bad. This is fine. Like there's some kind of. I thought there was like some kind of fun scenes in this. And it was also one in which I can't remember if I saw this or Zemeckis' Christmas Carol first. It was probably Polar Express, but I remember thinking, I kind of like, seeing Tom Hanks in all these roles. Like, it feels like Tom Hanks is kind of having some fun with this, where, Jim Carrey in A Christmas Carol just feels fucking weird and seems like we're trying to recapture something from like 30 years ago. But I don't know. Like, I think also too, weird, like, this is like, it's funny you brought up kind of showing this to your kids. I don't know if this would be like a kid's movie per se. I almost feel like I weirdly connect to it as an adult, in the sense where I feel like Zemeckis uses this story of this kid kind of beginning to not believe in Santa Claus. And I feel like he kind of transitions that into a story about trying to, like, at least for people trying to find like the Christmas spirit and kind of keeping the Christmas spirit in their hearts as they get older, and kind of keeping that same childlike sentimentality, like as they grow up. And I think there is something kind of interesting in that, and that was the thing that it honestly kind of keeps me going back, and it's kind of keeps, because I think that is kind of the difference with the kid too, is like he's not in the same way, like he is kind of looking down on all these kids for still believing in Santa. I think he's also kind of looking down on them for a sense of kind of still being awed by the majesty of it. And it's something he eventually comes around to by the end of the film. And it's an aspect about it I do really like. Now, there are definitely some silly things, like, and I don't know if, Cody, I don't know if your kids made it to, where we saw the elves, but those are like maybe the scariest fucking elves I think I've seen in any movie, especially fucking Steven Tyler elf. I don't know why we did that. That was but I'll submit it to the floor. I'm very curious to hear everybody else, and especially since we're already really fired up from that Christmas of the Kranks report.
Yeah. Everybody else, I'm guessing you've seen this movie. I'm curious because, like, Kirk and Brian, you probably have a different perspective on this movie. Did you guys see this with your kids, like, around that time frame, or did you guys? Or is this a new watch? Have you guys seen this movie prior?
I've seen it before. I mean, I never watched it with my kids. I watched it.
Good.
I think it was a couple years ago. I don't know if I had to watch it, studying it for trivia, or if I was just like doing the Zemeckis run on my own. But I just was like, oh, here's something I can cross off the list. And yeah, and so I was actually trying, like, I didn't like it before. I was trying to find positives in it. That, there's a lot of stuff in this movie. Like when the train first shows up looks great. That's a great scene. When the what they call it, the Glacier Gulch, or the roller coaster scene, a lot of fun. Basically, anytime there's no people on screen and you don't have to look into those horrifying dead eyes, it's not that bad. But the animation, I mean, it goes for the other two he did, with his style animation. The people are just, that uncanny valley is just hard to watch. And you can tell. My thing about this is you can definitely tell this was a 10-page book that got stretched into a feature film, because there is a lot of filler in this. The whole movie is about whether or not the kid's going to believe in Santa Claus. They get to the North Pole. They go to Christmas Town. We see elves. We see reindeer. We see Santa's sleigh. We see Santa's sack. And like, okay, he knows there's Santa Claus. I pause it. There's 45 minutes left in the movie. All this other stuff, all these other, North Pole adventures happen. Santa Claus shows up. I pause. There's 30 minutes left in the movie. There's so much filler packed in this movie that just didn't need to be there. Like, if you'd have made this like a half hour, like NBC Christmas special to show with whatever, Prep and Landing, whatever else they show, I think it would have been great, or at least a lot better. But as a feature, it just didn't work.
I agree with pretty much everything Kirk just said, which makes it law. That's the rule around here. Because I mean, obviously there's the mocap thing, which mocap animation looks hideous and stupid. It's pointless. Mocap should be used for creating otherworldly things that you can't, like, Avatar or Gollum and things like that. It makes sense. But the mocap animation is just being done for the sake of itself, and it looks horrible. And Robert Zemeckis was obsessed with it in this section of his career where he's doing Beowulf and this and Christmas Carol, and I think he produced Mars Needs Moms, and it's like none of them were good. They all looked stupid. So there's that whole thing about it. I don't understand why Tom Hanks had to play multiple roles. He kind of like didn't make any sense. But I just overlooked that. But the biggest problem of it is the fact that this is the poster child for when you try to take a short story and drag it into a feature-length film, because it is so much filler and it drags in so many parts of it. It's the same. I'm gonna lose Cody right here. It's the same reason how The Grinch Stole Christmas sucks, because you're taking a story that made a good, like, what was it, like a half hour, short film, whatever it was, and then you tried to make it into this, 2-hour feature film, and it's just full of filler, and so you fill it with just Jim Carrey doing his Jim Carrey bits, which Jim Carrey can be funny, but that story was just like, it's the same thing. You're taking this much story and stretching it thin. So that it just made it drag and things like that. But I can also say, like, I think a couple of you have said now that, I understand why kids might enjoy parts of this because of the Christmas imagery and the whole, believing in Santa Claus and the whole, you're still in awe of that whole kind of thing. Like, this is the Toyland where the elves are and where Santa is. I can see, like, kids would enjoy that part of it, but I also think that they would be completely bored getting to that, because there is so much filler and it does move so slow in so many parts. I actually looked back at my letterbox to see, I watched this movie for the first time like 2014, like 10 years after it came out, with my two kids. And then I remembered they watched it and it was exactly that. It was like they were basically bored by most of it. And then once in a while they'd be like, oh, this is cool. And then they'd be bored again. And I'm just like, yep, that's this movie.
You're on a magic train.
My 7-year-old kept asking, is it over yet?
I mean, if anything, if you were going to try to make this story, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more if they had made a live action movie of this, because then at least you wouldn't have the mocap thing, which is so off-putting. And I give it probably 5 years before they probably will try to make a remake of it in live action. But even then, you're still going to have the problem of very little story stretched out.
I think like the 30, like this would one. I'm not a huge fan of all the classic like Christmas 30-minute cartoons. I don't love them. Yes, I love the Jim Carrey Grinch. What you said was uncalled for, but I'll let it pass. My thing is, if they would have made this like a 30-minute with the train and the Christmas vibes and put Christmas music and the dancing attached to it and made that 30 minutes, this thing's fire. Instead, they have to give these kids that I don't fucking care about at all throughout this movie, and like they're trying to learn a life lessons from Tom Hanks, and Steven Tyler's a fucking elf for some fucking reason. There's like so many things that just don't make any goddamn sense the entire time. So I just sat there and was just like, and I was a teenager when it came out, so it's like it never crossed my radar at all. But I know some friends of mine are like nostalgia over, like, oh, gotta watch it. I'm like, you gotta? That's weird. That's a weird statement. But Payson, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I remember watching this movie when it came out in theaters. I was like 6 years old when it came out, and I admit there is some nostalgia there, but I can't call this a good movie. For what I'm just gonna say, like in a week where in an episode where we're talking about Christmas with the Kranks, that movie does not have as bad of a character as Know It All Kid. Know It All Kid is up there for one of the most annoying characters in movie history. Like,
I did want to see him get run over by the train. I will
well,
say.
yes, he's essentially a cartoon motion capture version of Boatman, and Brian took it out. I was hoping he would have gotten like run over by the train at some point.
Payson's true thoughts on Boatman revealed.
No, but like it was going to school and he's obsessed with
Boatman's run under the train.
Trains. Enough with trains, buddy. No, I'm kidding. If you're obsessed with trains are actually pretty cool. But like, yeah, and as they said, like when nothing is happening, and like, they're getting point of Robert Zemeckis' career where I think you could clearly tell he wasn't interested in telling like stories anymore. He just wanted to like experiment with like new technology. Like I think of The Walk, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie where it was essentially just trying to advertise like just IMAX 3D, and it's like good on you, but the movie's not great surrounding it. And like I'm sure the technology in 04 was cool, but like now looking back, yeah, like everyone has said, the human characters look like monsters, and it looks like something out of like a Guillermo del Toro movie at this point. But like at least that would have more life to it. I will say, if seeing this movie in a theater, like there are moments that do feel very cinematic. And like when you're seeing it on a big screen, like when you don't have to deal with any of the characters, something that has not been mentioned, those two engineers, the one guy with the big red beard and the other guy that's like very like horrible. They just start yelling about caribou. Like I do not enjoy it. But at the same time, there is something that I can't describe. This movie kind of has a hold on me, and I can't quite like absolutely hate it. It's kind of like what Mark was saying about Christmas with the Kranks. I can't really say anything that I like love about this. Oh, another scene I hate. They just randomly just throw in a song in the middle. Like, why? And I can sing like the whole chorus of this song, and I don't know, like it feels like it was manufactured like by a company just to be like an earworm, and I hate it. But like there's something this movie has, and I can't quite describe it. And yeah.
I was at Payson, you said that the know-it-all kid's the worst character.
Yeah.
I think the main kid kind of sucks.
Oh, Hero Boy is awful.
He's a schmuck. The whole thing, and the whole thing with the ticket, because first of all, I don't understand the ticket drama, because like it's a magic ticket that you put in her pocket, like the fact that she doesn't have it, like she's supposed to be on the train, but the whole thing with that, like him like going out and losing that, so just waiting for him to get back, and then he gets that bell and he puts it in the pocket that he knows has a hole in it. It's like what a moron. And and talking about the kids, the other thing that just doesn't make sense to me was the Billy, the poor kid, because I don't understand the logic of this movie. And this is all Santa Claus movies. It never makes sense to me that the adults don't believe Santa exists, but somehow magically presents appear at the under the tree every Christmas, but the parents still don't believe in them, even though they didn't put the presents there. With this one especially, though, like Billy's the poor kid, and he sings a song about never get any presents at Christmas, and obviously it's because he's poor. But in this movie, Santa exists, so Santa just doesn't visit the poor kid's house on purpose.
Maybe he's been naughty too. We don't know what he does in the house. It's a crack house. Maybe.
He got him like this big badass present this year. He's just holding out for the one good year.
Oh, and Payson, as to your question of why they shoved the song in the middle, so that they could get the Oscar nomination.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Shout out to Josh Groban.
I'm just saying that
I still want to clarify. Know It All Kid is like the bad version of Boatman. Like Boatman normally is okay, but like this Know It All Kid is like, yeah.
You're backpedaling like Boatman now.
No, you hate him. You hate him, and that's fine. You said
that's fair.
Listen,
my Letterboxd review is literally, wow, I didn't know Know It All Kid went on to run a movie trivia league with Cody Newberry.
Yikes.
Anyway, you said he's the most annoying person. My thing is, in a mocap world where all this stuff is happening and the animation looks as creepy as possible, You have to straight put this into a fever dream of that puppet sequence in that movie is god awful. Like I put it on. I'm like, you guys, hey, you can watch Polar Express. I mean, there's nothing. And my daughter, like, I lost trust thanks to you, Mark, because they're like, is there anything that is there anything scary? Like, no, nothing. It's a Christmas movie, and that puppet scene came on. Today she wouldn't even look at me. She wouldn't. She was so angry with me still because I led her into that trap of fucking that was those puppets. Yeah, she didn't make it to Steven Tyler because God, I would have ruined her twice. I would have ruined her twice. There would have been no redeeming. But yeah, you can tell this thing is as paper thin of a story as you possibly can have, and you can have the most charming Tom Hanks person possible. It's still a loose story with nothing. So we'll get scores on this one. Mark.
I gotta tell you, after hearing about you watching this with your daughter and her not trusting your movie, I've never been more proud of a choice I made on this show. I enjoy this. And to be honest, I think they're probably going to show it at the Draft House, kind of at San Antonio. Probably going to try to watch it over there. It's an every year Christmas movie. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's 4 stars.
Jesus Christ. Brian.
I'm gonna give it 1 star just for a couple things like I do like the music and stuff in it, but other than that, it's a pile of shit. It's a 1 star.
Wow, meaner than me. I give it 2 stars. I think there's I think this movie, if I could edit out a few of the scary scenes, but put it on on a TV and just let it play, it'd be a fine background during the holidays, scenery. But movie. Fuck no. And then Bowman shows up and it ruins my day. No, I'm just kidding. Payson.
It was uttered earlier. Shout out to the Ontel holiday exhibition match where Thomas Scully says, and I quote, "This is one of the greatest movies of all time." And Cody just has an aneurysm when he says this. Phenomenal moment. I'd recommend everyone go check that out. I'll go 2.5. I cannot defend it as a good movie, but there's something there.
No, there's not. Okay, Kirk.
Payson had mentioned about there being some cinematic moments in this movie, and Mark said he's going to see the theater. I could see wanting to do that because there are some worthwhile scenes like that in this movie, but still, it doesn't make up for it. The rest of it, I was at 1.5 originally, and that's not going to change.
Alrighty. All right. Home for the holidays. I want this argument settled right here, right now. This has been told to me numerous times. I've never heard it from the horse's mouth. I've never heard it from Brian himself. Better film than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Is this the correct of what I've heard, or is this just a fabrication that has come to my doorstep?
No, that's right.
Holy shit, you're an incorrect human being. God,
I'm movie. What are we talking about here?
Now you're trying to turn everyone against you before I even start talking here.
No. I didn't say this movie's bad. That's not what I'm saying.
I enjoy Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I think it's
See, I do enjoy that one, but I don't like as much as this one. I think okay, so I decided for the holiday edition, even though this is airing in December, currently this is the week of Thanksgiving now, but I wanted to have a Thanksgiving movie. So I decided to bring Home for the Holidays. 1995 movie directed by Jodie Foster. It's a kind of a dramedy. I mean, it's definitely a comedy, but it's not like a broad, Will Ferrell type comedy. It's a little more grounded than that kind of stuff. But the reason I love this movie so much is because this is the single most realistic holiday movie and Thanksgiving movie of anything. Because, I mean, I think that they do a great job capturing what it's really like spending the holiday with your family, with the chaos that ensues, the arguments, the drama, the conflict, everything that happens, the different personalities trying to mix together. And I just think that it just really hit home with me, and it's just the best portrayal of what it's really like. And that's why I enjoy this movie, because you get to sit there and laugh in that kind of way of yes, that's exactly what my family is like. Maybe nobody else is like that. Maybe this is just my dysfunctional family. I don't know. I don't know your families for the most part. But I just really like that. I like the way it was done. It's very, it's a lot of conversational dialogue, and it's kind of overlapping a lot. It's not so much like the setup and then the punchline kind of comedy. It's more just situational and relationships. But yeah, it's a kind of vibe. Like it was a few years ago, I guess almost 10 years ago now. They kind of redid that same kind of vibe with "This Is Where I Leave You," which is another one that I really liked. I think has a very kind of similar vibe to this movie. And that's just my kind of thing. Again, maybe it's just more about my family. I think they had a great cast here. You had Charles Durning and Anne Bancroft as like the parents of the movie. I think that those two are both phenomenal in their roles. Charles Durning especially is just kind of having fun being just the goofy dad. Holly Hunter obviously is the star of this thing, and she carries this. I love Holly Hunter in this. I mean, she's good in most things she's in, but I think it's just watching her suffer through this, I think is great. The other I think the main relationship of the movie seems to be between her and her brother Tommy, which is Robert Downey Jr. And I loved him in this because this is Robert Downey Jr. I mean, he's still doing his, improv, crazy, fast talking comedy like he's always kind of been known for, but he hasn't quite become as, smug and buttoned up as he got kind of in the post Iron Man days. This is like right on that edge of his stage of career where he was kind of in the purgatory. He was having personal problems and drugs and things like that. It was like after his first success, but before, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is kind of in that limbo there. But I thought he was great in that. You got Geraldine Chaplin in here, Charlie Chaplin's daughter. You got David Strathairn, who's fun in a small part. You don't see him do comedies a whole lot like this. And I think Sneakers, I had a lot of fun watching him. But he's a lot of fun here as Sad Sack Terziak. But this is just a movie that I just love watching every Thanksgiving pretty much, just because there aren't a lot of Thanksgiving movies. And this is the one that just portrays it the best for me.
Hey, Kirk.
Yeah.
Did your opinion change of what you texted me the other night, or is it still the truth?
No. Can I go? Do you just want me to go?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was gonna start with you.
My question when I start watching this movie is, can I give a movie 1 star based solely on the opening song? The opening song in this movie is literally one of the worst things I've ever heard. It's Rusted Roots cover of Evil Woman by Santana, and it is just god awful. Like, I wanted to throw a brick through my TV. I thought I'd watched the entire hour and a half of the movie.
The funny thing is, when I watched this movie just actually last night and today, I finished it up. I decided to watch this time with the audio commentary with Jodie Foster talking about it, and she's talking about that, and she's like, I wanted to use the Santana song, but it was put out by Polygram when the time they had like a movie studio they were trying to get into movies, and they're like, well, we have this Polygram artist, Rusted Root. It'll be a lot cheaper if we use them. So they made her use them instead of the original.
Oh, it's so bad. I was angry, and it may have turned me off because unfortunately I did not like the movie in general. I thought that I feel Brian's right. I feel like it does feel like a real family get together where there's just a bunch of random stuff that happens and like nothing's resolved. I feel like it's a movie where somebody read like a Wikipedia summary of like every holiday movie and just made a script based on that. Like a bunch of stuff's thrown at the wall, like, a plot angle will open and then just nothing will happen. And it's kind of just random. And like David Strathairn shows up for a scene and his character seems like he's going to be something. He just walks away and it's nothing. I don't like Robert Downey Jr. in this movie. I think they made him unlikable, which is hard to do. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to like him, but he's just really obnoxious and annoying. And the parts I think that he's doing are supposed to be funny aren't. And in general, I feel like this movie would be better as a stand-up comedy routine, because I feel like the whole movie is, families and holidays. Am I right? Like that's the vibe of the entire movie. So it did not land for me. I know the rest of you seem to enjoy it, but it just wasn't. It didn't latch on for me.
I don't know. So I'm not in love with this movie. I like this movie, for the most part. Definitely felt. I was gonna say, Brian, how's Christmas in Illinois? Just to draw back, like it's very similar. It fits a very dysfunctional family around the holidays, which I think it's not definitely not only to the Midwest life, but it feels very like everybody has the same life in the Midwest. To this kind of lifestyle, like people are like they may be more family oriented up in there than there's a Robert Downey Jr. at basically every family outfit that I've ever been around in this thing. So it felt very homey to that aspect where I could draw interest and be like, yep, I get that. I feel that. And holy shit, that's annoying. But like overall love, no. I get this is maybe my bad. I don't know if it's again, I don't look a whole lot into a movie. And maybe this is the bad thing, is because I've heard numerous times this and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. One of those movies has something very about it. This is a very slapstick, in-your-face comedy. This movie is not that. So I went in expecting laughs because I never understood why the comparison, besides their Thanksgiving movies, but like.
Well, that's the only thing they have in common. Yeah.
They're the two.
Exactly. So my viewpoint is going in there. So I'm thinking this is a comedy, like an out slapstick, and I'm sitting there really quick and found out real fast. I'm like,
oh, it's a dramedy. Yeah.
It's a dramedy. So overall, then I had to like stop myself, and I stopped it, and I rewatched it the next day, and I was like, okay, now I'm getting where we're going with this. So that's why I enjoyed it. But overall, I was heading down a path I was not happy at all. I was like, this fucking thing's not funny. What the fuck, Mark? What do you think?
Overall, I liked it. I think I kind of. I mean, I won't say like in a sense like I'm not sure if I like overall I guess like I guess say empathize with the family situation. Feel like I don't know, mine's like this, but I know I've seen it before, and I think a scene that I think kind of captures that a lot is at least when everybody's like using the phone and they're like calling their other people, and we're getting the snapshots into like these other like Thanksgiving to get, and everything seems like more put together. Seems like everybody's happier. Like over there, there's like a very like grass is always greener like sentimentality there. We just perceive everybody's other like family holidays are better than ours or whatever. I mean, I kind of like that at the end of it, like nothing's resolved. We're just this kind of where I kind of like that we're almost kind of in the middle of the story, in how one day either it gets fixed or it doesn't, or things are just kind of like this forever. Like there is like this very this kind of realness to that, and it's some, and also like in I think my only real, like if we're getting into slight spoilers here, but I think my main issue is like I kind of wish Dylan McDermott like didn't show up at the airport. It would have felt like kind of more real, like if he's just not there, and she just
That felt like the last scene
back.
of a rom-com. Yeah.
Yeah, she just like flies back to like all her problems, and also thinking about her, because I think that's also what's kind of neat too, is at the end, even though like we went through this whole chaotic holiday, like there is a sense that we kind of wish like it wasn't ending. We kind of wish that she was still hanging out with her family, because it is like this like is still like her center. It's where she kind of feels the most like herself, and like a better word, where she feels more at home. I mean, I think I like it is, especially after sitting with it for a couple of days. I like that element about it. I think kind of Jodie Foster really, she really gets something at least out of this whole family dynamic in that situation.
Payson, what was your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of said my thoughts already. I enjoyed it. Of the cast, I do think like I'm not sure if anyone else agrees. I think Anne Bancroft and Charles Durning were my favorite characters, like as like the parents. Like I just think those are just like such fun like actors in general whenever they show up, and giving them those parts I think was a lot of fun. I'm kind of with Kirk on Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Like when he first shows up, I got the idea that he was supposed to be like this like punk adult, and like there was a little bit of Arrested Development there. But as the movie went on, he just became such an asshole and like so purposefully aggravating. where like I couldn't just be like a bystander watching the movie at that point. I just imagine being like in the room with him, and I would just hate my life at that point. But yeah, like Brian said, I think there is just something fun about this movie where like it does feel like what it feels like to be around the holidays, and like when not everyone is on the same page. There are some funny moments. For example, like when Joanne's on the plane, I forgot the exact food that the person next to her is eating. But like, this is just a mini rant I have. Like, if you're on a plane, there is like a very select group of foods that you should be allowed to eat if you're sitting next to someone. And if you go into certain other foods, you're an asshole. And that's like what this person was doing. And that's funny. I do disagree with Mark though. I enjoyed Dylan McDermott in the movie. I thought the romance she had with Holly Hunter's character was kind of sweet. And yeah, I like this movie is undoubtedly like a little fluffy towards the end, and it might not have the edge that it like has towards the beginning of the movie. But like I definitely enjoyed my time while watching the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, once I got the viewpoint of not a comedy, it definitely picked up for me. It felt very realistic. I'm kind of with you, Mark. What you said is like if he didn't show up at the airport, like that would have been a little bit better for me too. I just like kind of a slice of life, like the small little like section of people in the family. Like we got to be with this family for this small time period, and like it didn't have to have like this, you know, big arc of like, you know, Uncle Stu died and something, you know, like some dramatic moment that it's just them getting ended. They're just dysfunctional, basically. It kind of just worked for me, so I was quite pleased with it.
I will say I think this is a movie that's kind of a product of its time because, like you're talking about, there wasn't any big drama. I think the biggest dramatic thing in it is when, you know, the reveal of Robert Downey Jr. and how he got married, and his sister's like, you know, ashamed and embarrassed of him. It's like it's so much a product of its time back in 1995, where it wasn't, you know, as widely just accepted and things like that. And to see people that were like shocked by it, or much less like embarrassed by it, was a little bit. It's a little bit weird watching it now. But I mean, then again, if this is a Thanksgiving movie now, everyone would be sitting on their cell phones. So.
True. Okay. Brian, what's your score?
4.
I'm 3.5. 3.5. Definitely enjoyed it. It might be a perfect come down from a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles into it. Like it might work for that. Payson.
Yeah, same score, 3.5. I think better than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is kind of insane, but still quite enjoyed it.
Kirk.
Not counting Rusted Root.
Yeah, I have to take the movie call. I can't not. That's still, I can still hear that ringing in my ears.
When I played it again and listened to it,
yeah.
I kind of just like started and waited till the thing started. But when that thing, I was like, "Oh, Kirk's not happy about this." Okay.
Yeah, that said a bit ton for me. But like I said, the movie just didn't stick for me. I think I get that you all said that you kind of like the slice of life. I was just waiting for a story to start, and it was just like kind of like, you know, Mark said something about it felt like we were in the middle of a movie. I felt like we weren't even at the beginning. Like it just, there was no, like the conflict didn't land for me. So I didn't enjoy it, and I think honestly, like Jodie Foster, the 30 years since this came out, has directed like maybe like 1 or 2 movies, and there's a reason why. It's going to be 1 star for me.
1 star.
Yeah, weird directorial career Jodie Foster has had. If you look at
the can you give it a 1 star based on a performance? It's still got the 1 star after the performance. Mark, where are we at?
Yeah, you know, the thing is, I people talk about Charles. I also enjoyed Charles during this, or I like thinking of him as Father Hubley. You know, for all the everybody loves Raymond guys, or just, you know, Tim.
Happy Daniel from Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
There we go. You know, I was prepared to give it 3.5, but I think even more sitting with it, I'll give it a 4. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'll give it 4 stars.
Okay. So the last movie of the night, I'm kind of a trend that I'm on of picking a movie I haven't seen before to bring it on and get the discussion. Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, Spirited. I picked it, and I don't remember who, but they're like, you're not gonna like that movie. Wrong. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I don't at the beginning, it had me a little bit like, maybe, and I didn't love all the songs. But I'll tell you, the whole like tie into the Christmas story, like Christmas Carol aspect, and like how creative they were, and like first surprisingly, I still think he's a pretty slapstick it through the entire movie. Don't get me wrong, but for some reason they kind of put Will Ferrell like concealed a little bit. They didn't let him go full crazy because I think they could have just let him run and ruin this movie. And even Ryan Reynolds, which I think is one of the most annoying actors in Hollywood by far, because he just plays the same shtick in every movie. He just does the voice and like everybody thinks he's hilarious. He worked really well in this movie. Octavia Spencer, and then some of the songs like. There was an exact moment that it flipped this entire movie. Like I was, oh, okay, I'm having fun. And what's the phrase?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. That segment hit, and I was just like, we're on, and going, and I'm fine with everything that goes. Because again, I'm very like I know that there are probably problems, and I know there are probably people that watch this that just like eye roll when watching this. But for me, like it's Christmas movie, so it gets like it's on a giant like inflatable like safety mat. Like it's not that bad because it's Christmas time. So not only did I like this movie a lot, it's going to be automatically added to like my yearly thing. I think it is great. I think they did a fantastic job. I think this should have been an absolute fucking disaster. Like in my opinion, I should have been that. And Kirk probably thinks it is a fucking disaster, but I can't wait to find out. I know Brian enjoyed this. Did everybody else see this movie before me picking it?
I've seen it before. Yeah.
Oh, Mark, you did not. You saw it for the first
not.
time.
Yep.
Okay, so absolutely, we'll go to you next. Your thoughts? I'm curious.
I don't know if I've said this at least as far as like any like show sense. I feel like I've given plenty of the first shot. I just don't really enjoy musicals. I don't really enjoy musicals. They're just not my thing. Like I like a handful of them. That being said, I like this movie quite a bit. Like I was very on board with this. I was on board from the jump. Whenever it's like, oh, like what if like what if the spirits of like the of like that came from Halloween. What if this was like an every year thing and this was like their plan to like try to reform some guy's life? Sounds fucking cool, man. Sign me up. That is a great concept for a movie, and it's one that, again, like I brought this up whenever we talked about Carol for Another Christmas. I like when movies are creative with the Christmas Carol setup, and this movie does that phenomenally. And also, I mean, again, because we don't care about spoilers, they were going a direction with Will Ferrell, and I'm like, are we gonna do it? And then they did it, and like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad they just went full like Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge with that. That's amazing. And yeah, like I will say, like just in general, I feel like I would like this movie a little bit more. Like if it wasn't a musical, I feel like when the musical parts came up, like I kind of checked out. Except for Good Afternoon, I like that segment. That was a pretty
Cool.
baller segment. And yeah, and I am starting to just kind of believe, like just because I've seen most of his movies, I think Shawn Anders is just my guy. I like this Sean. Like every time I see a Shawn Anders movie, I'm like, this movie shouldn't be good, and I like it way more than I should. Like I listen. I enjoy the Daddy's Home movies
Oh my god!
just solely based off of the
Bridge too far, Mark.
just
I
solely based off
literally
the
about stopped you and said, "What do you mean by that?" Because that's my boy, Daddy's Home, Sextra. You're just like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Sex Drive
I
is a
would
fun
just say
movie.
just solely based on the Daddy's Home. It's just solely based on the chemistry between Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Like it just kind of gets it. And then Instant Family is like
That's
that is
a
a
good
very
point.
that's a very underrated movie. So
Instant
very underrated.
Family's fire.
And yeah, like I don't know, just like everything just really clicked for this. I was expecting for this to be like, I was expecting for this to be the worst movie I saw of the bunch, and honestly, like it's probably one of the best. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Fair. Okay, so Brian likes this movie a lot. Kirk, I don't think likes this movie a ton. Maybe he likes it. I'm not sure. Payson, how do you sit?
Yeah, this is the second time I've watched this movie, and I liked it at the time, and honestly, on rewatch, I liked it even more. I think I think it draws a really fine line where like it's almost too cheesy for me. Like it's almost too much, and I almost get like it really teeters that fine line, but it never goes over that line. And when it's just on like the level it is, I'm just like, this is just a super fun time, and like I really do enjoy like how this movie looks and like all the sets and all the costumes. I think is really really fun. This movie understands something that I don't think Hollywood. I think Hollywood has forgotten about Ryan Reynolds. He is so good at playing an asshole. Like cast the guy as like an asshole and like a guy you're not supposed to like, and I think that's when like he soars the most. Like when Will Ferrell's character says he's like the combination of Mussolini and Seacrest. That line gets me every single time. Yeah, Good Afternoon is definitely my favorite song. I think Bringing Back Christmas is also the song I really enjoy. And yeah, like everyone said, like the classic Christmas Carol story is one that we've seen a ton of times, but you can rip off that story a lot. Like it reminds me of It's a Wonderful Life, where like you can do so much with that concept, and the idea of like every year these ghosts literally Christmas carol someone, I think is so much fun. Octavia Spencer's really good. Like I don't think we recognize how versatile of an actress Octavia Spencer is, because like I think she can do both comedy and drama really well, and I think she does both of those really well here. And yeah, maybe this movie is like I think it might go on like a tad too long, and you might be able to cut out, like everyone says, like a couple of the songs. Like I don't think every single song is like a complete slam dunk, but man, I think this is a ton of fun. And yeah, Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds are a blast in this movie.
I think they even point out at times, like, do we really need to sing again? Like,
Yeah.
we're fine. Like,
I
I
love
think
those
even
moments. He's like, cut off the spotlight. Like, like trying
I
to get
think
this-
we even they know. Like, I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Do I go to Brian? Do I go to Kirk next? Because I know Brian's gonna be on the same side. Kirk, what's your opinions on this? Because I'll save the positive for the end.
Yeah, it's with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. They're two guys who've kind of become like trendy to hate, and I try to avoid like jumping on those bandwagons. But I think they're both good. I enjoy this movie. I think I think the music's fantastic. I think this is a fantastic musical, even though like most of the cast aren't great singers. I think they do a good job of keeping it within their wheelhouse where they can make it. The only time it's rough is like when Marley sings, or the girl who plays Christmas Past. She only has like one or two sung lines, but she's really good. But like when you hear those two sing like with everybody else, it makes everybody else sound really bad. But when they're singing with each other, it sounds okay. But as far as like the actual songs and the musical numbers, the choreography, and the set design for the music, fantastic. I'd love to see this as like an actual like stage play because I think it's really good. I love, I said we talked about Carol for Another Christmas. I love A Christmas Carol. I love the original story, and I love seeing different things done with that. And I also love when you take like a mythology or a legend or something that's hyped up as to be this like big mysterious thing, and you go behind the scenes, and it's like this kind of workaday, mundane, boring thing. It's almost like a Men in Black type of thing where you just go, and it's like you go to the office, and there's aliens. I love that kind of conceit with this, and just seeing them. I love the scenes where like the guys are wheeling parts of the scene in, and you see the guys with headsets like setting everything up. I laughed at the Sephora joke. I love that. I thought that was funny. So all that's really cool. I like the conceit that the afterlife is a musical, but it doesn't hold up because Ryan Reynolds like instigates half the song. So it's a little wobbly, but it's still a lot of fun. It loses me towards like the last maybe third when it becomes like the focus on Will Ferrell and Octavia Spencer's relationship, which is kind of the least interesting part of the movie to me. And then when it becomes about like that kid killing himself, that just kind of like throws a wrench in it for me. So it towards the end, it kind of peters off for me. But overall, I think it's really fun.
This movie definitely handles like the child suicide in the most like PG-13 way possible.
Yeah.
Like they like kind of mention that it happens, but they don't want to say that it happens. It's like, this is dark. Are we gonna acknowledge this? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, what's your thoughts?
I love this movie. I almost picked it for this show, but I decided I want to do a Thanksgiving one. And so when you changed your pick to this, I was thrilled because I want an excuse to watch this again. I watched it 3 times last year. Watched it last night. I'll probably watch it again before Christmas because I love this movie. I think that, first of all, I think it plays perfectly into Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds' strengths. But I mean, it was made by their production companies for them. So it obviously they knew their strengths and they played right into it. They're perfect for the characters. The music is by Pasek and Paul, who are the same guys who did Greatest Showman. They did a couple of songs from La La Land. They did Dear Evan Hansen, which I know a lot of people don't like, but the problem with that movie is not the songs. I love just the arrangements, the way the songs are used, and the choreography too. I think the dance choreography in this is great. It's very different because it incorporates a lot of different styles. It's like very tap heavy in parts because the choreographer was part of like a step group. But I love so just all the song and dance because I'm a big musical guy. So I love this movie for that reason alone. Even before you can start getting into the story of it. Patrick Page, who plays Marley, I guess. He's the guy, if anyone's ever heard of or seen Hades Town, he played Hades in that, and he has that great bass voice, and I think it works perfect for this character. I do think his song in here was probably one of the weaker songs, but I still just love his voice, even whether he's just speaking or singing or whatever. I really love him in this. But yeah, this is a movie I can watch over and over and over again. And aside from the times I've watched the movie, I've just like had the soundtrack playing like my earbuds while I'm at work, things like that. Because I just enjoy this thing top to bottom. It was a great, pleasant surprise last year when it first came out, and it's going to be on my list to watch every single year from now on.
Yeah, it makes a little sense that the songs were by The Greatest Showman because I'm a defender of that. Like that, I think that is one of, like, soundtrack alone. I love the music from that, so like I absolutely. That's why I could see myself gravitating towards the music in this, like the aspects. But again, like even some of the jokes that I thought were going to be like, oh my god, like the whole joke with the Tiny Tim thing, and like I think it's Little John, blah blah, like throwing it back and forth. I was like, I'm gonna ram my head through a wall because I thought this, but no, they play it so well. It's like, no need to Tiny Tim. Like, you know what, it is Tiny Tim. Like it just they know exactly what to do, and they played it really well, and that's just what worked with the movie. Again. Because I think there's like this block. Some people will disagree with this, but like I believe a comedic actor can only be so funny for so long, and then they stop. They can't do it. Like something just stops them. If it's Jim Carrey, there's a fall off. There's Sandler, there's a fall off. Will Ferrell, there was clearly a fall off. But for them to be able to redeem and put this movie into there and like do it's got to be one of the hardest things. Like, how do you reinvent the Christmas Carol in a new way? And they seem to find out a new way, and every time, and then when they make him Scrooge, like that's just like on top of it, like just funny, like how it works, and like, and it's even a stupid joke, like that was a burn back then, like that was a diss, and then they just turn an entire song to Good Afternoon, like that's just brilliant where it goes.
And then when he attacks the cab driver's like, no, it doesn't mean that anymore.
What are you gonna do? Why is that?
Oh, when he's standing on top of the thing, he's like, "Good afternoon. What did you say to me?" He's like, "Nothing. It wasn't me." And then he's walks out, "Good afternoon." I'm hearing it too. Like it just was the comedic timing and bits just worked really well. I had to stop this movie halfway through because I was like, I think I'm enjoying this movie too much as what it's supposed to be. Like, there's got to be something I'm missing. It is going to be. I will watch this again. I can't wait to show it to more people. I'm in love with it.
And my thing is, it's like 2 hours and 7 minutes long altogether, which it really doesn't have any business being that long. But at the same time, I wouldn't cut anything out of it. And I'm glad they had the one cut song, the Ripples, which they actually ended up just putting over the end credits instead. It's like, I'm glad they at least put that there because I wouldn't cut anything out of this movie. So I understand if people think it's a little long, but I have no problem with it.
I understand Kirk's thing, like, and that's my only gripe playing with like the love between Octavia Spencer and Will Ferrell. I could have done like completely without that, and I guess the child suicide, but they had to have like this. What?
So who knew Octavia could sing?
Yeah, they had to like they had to bring it to a head at some point. Like, where were they going with this? So they had to like go somewhere, and it ended up working for me. Again, I had when I looked at this, I was like, ugh. And then I don't know who it was. I'm like, I don't think you're gonna like that because it had Reynolds, it had Will Ferrell past this point. It was musical related, and I mean Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are not like outstanding singers, but like it worked with not being like the greatest like classical. It just worked. Everything in it just worked for me overall. Oh, and yeah, all the set design and like the stuff they were able to achieve with this movie, like for Apple and stuff, like the whole going back in time, and just how the twists work and like him dying at the end and like taking the opportunity to.
I was surprised by that ending. Yeah,
yeah, because he's like there had to be a sacrifice because he's like you pushed me out of the way. I'm like I saw it like before it ended up playing out, but I'm like. This song's gonna hit. You're gonna be dead, dude. Like this is how this works. But and then when it popped, I was like, they did it. They actually did it. And it's like, is anybody gonna? I laughed really hard when they're like, why are we all standing around? Is anybody gonna like? Where would you even blow into that? I don't. Is there anything? Like, he's done. I was like, that was just brilliant how they played it off. So. I don't want to take it. Anybody want to bring any more moments from this movie before we give score, or I don't want to stop anybody.
I mean, I just want to point out one thing. It just at least kind of going back at least on the Scrooge thing. I think kind of a thing that I also really like is that it's very quietly has really good character work, and I think just kind of based on what you guys said by making that decision to kill off Ryan Reynolds' character and kind of giving him kind of the same opportunity that Will Ferrell's character had of kind of making up for the things that he did, and also kind of making like a nice twist to Scrooge. It kind of a weird, nice twist to like Will Ferrell's character, Scrooge's character of like, what if he like died right after that, and what if like he's just afraid of going back to being a real person again. Like it kind of brings like an interesting twist into that, and kind of brings some spice into Will Ferrell's role.
And I also liked kind of the whole end message of it, where it's you don't have to be perfect. Like it's just about like, the traditional Christmas Carol story is, oh, he became a completely different person and was perfect after this. And I like that idea of no one's going to become perfect just because of they're reminded of a few things, but they're going to do a little better and try a little harder, and that's that counts for something.
Okay, we'll get scores. My movie, 4.5 stars. I am very high on this movie. I had to tell myself not to watch it again today. I was pretty pumped on it. Brian,
I currently have 4.5. It could eventually get the bump to 5, but for right now, 4.5.
All right. Kirk.
When I watched it last year, I put it at 3. I could see this going up. I'll probably end up putting it at 3.5.
Look at you. Okay. And at that moment, his heart grew 3 sizes bigger. So proud of him. Payson.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with Kirk. Last year, I gave it 3.5 stars. I think on this watch, I'm going to bump it up to 4.
Proud. Mark, first time watch, what are you at?
Yeah, because I cannot go quarters, I will give it a 4 stars. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Proud of you. Okay. That's the show. I want to thank everybody for being on. Just to let everybody know, you can find out the upcoming list for all the show. This episode is currently on there. It's on my letterbox. It's under my pin. It's on my profile. I will update that as soon as I get all the movies and then the dates that will be following and where they will be, so people can watch along. And I'm planning in 2024 to do a live one. I don't know how that will work. We'll see how it works. You give people pitch the movies ahead of time, let everybody know about it, and then hop on and like maybe maybe have the common people, but have a bunch of people watch along, and then send out the StreamYard link and have them come in and give their thoughts on the movies. I think it would be kind of interesting to see how that would work. But we'll give it a shot, see how it happens. But I want to thank everybody for being on. I think the next one coming up is just a normal one, and I don't think we fully have picked our movies yet. So
You can plan ahead. Christmas 2024, Terrifier 3. Let's go.
show's canceled November of 2024. Everybody have a great time. We will see you next time.